Brilliance Audio.
Swan Light by Phoebe Rowe. Performed by Francis G. Carney and Cassie Simone. Silvestre Swan's earliest memory was of losing something to the sea. His mind filled in years later what must have come before that memory. Another bitter spring morning restocking in St. John's, wharves salt slick and thrumming with creaks and shouts and splashes, harbor air heavy with the almond taste of ice. There was Thomas Swan, dark and wide, hauling knitting through the street toward the water. There was Nico Swan, scrawny and fierce, scooping up the bits that dragged. And there was Sylvie Swan, tiny, dawdling behind them both. He dragged his feet through puddles. He stopped to pet stray cats. He picked up cod-wet newspapers and poked them with his tongue. Somewhere in all of this, he must have found the stone. It was pale orange, veined with gold, perfectly round, and he must have squatted in the mud to study it, unblinking and reverent, until, "Sylvie, you want to swim home then, yes?" He ran to catch his father and brother. But the memory itself came just afterward, an instant where he pressed against Sea Split's bow, holding the stone out over the white-capped bay, breathless at its bright against the water's black. It was so bright he was sure it would float. And so Sylvie closed his fingers around his beautiful orange stone, and he turned his hand upside down, and he let it fall. There wasn't even a ripple. There was just the hiss of raindrops on the water and the crying of the gulls and the silence of the towering cliffs. Sea Split moving so quickly past them and into the harbor that he couldn't tell where the stone had vanished. And hanging there empty-handed, Sylvie didn't have the words for what he'd done. There were stronger memories of that same water later. There was its solid presence through the kitchen window of their leaky little house, his mother's berry-stained hand soft on his own. There was its shape at the edges of summer days, with Nico making serpents out of seaweed and kingdoms out of coves. But now, as he looked out over the bay from the cliff high above, it was the orange stone that came back to him. It always did on days like this one, in a particular kind of storm-ready gloom. Days when the wind was light and the birds were loud, but the sea was a restless, hungry black. Now Silvestre Swan stood with his hands on the iron rail of his lighthouse, watching the water, and wondering how that little orange stone had slipped 80 years away.